If you haven't already noticed, it is a new year. Here we go again, a brand new year, but sadly it is the same old presenters. English Addict is back with you. Hello everyone, and how has your new year been so far? We are back together. Hello everyone. It's so nice to see you here once more. Hi everybody. This is Mr. Duncan in England. How are you today? Are you okay? I hope so. Are you feeling happy? I really hope you are happy today. I do. Welcome to the... If you've ever wondered what happens to people who don't make it into show business, this is where they end up. So welcome to the outskirts of show business. Although it is still show business, we are still performing live for you right now here on YouTube. It might not be the legitimate stage or the big blockbuster Hollywood movies, but we are here anyway. And I suppose I should also introduce my partner in crime. Yes, you know who we are talking about, and he is in his cosy corner. I have to say, today he looks very relaxed. We are talking all about the one, the only, Mr. Steve.
Hi there. Hello everyone, and Happy New Year. To those we didn't have a chance to say Happy New Year to, well, I didn't last year because you've been on Wednesday. I haven't. When can you stop saying Happy New Year? This is the question I always joke with my customers and people I know. When, at what point do you stop saying Happy New Year? When is it inappropriate to carry on saying it to people? I think the first week afterwards. So I think... Or some people you see think if you haven't seen anybody for a long time and then you see them, what's the cut-off? When do you stop saying Happy New Year? Is it the end of January? If you haven't, is it the first week? I don't know. I'm just posing a question there, Mr. Duncan, because I'm still saying it to my customers, but maybe next week I won't bother. Every year we say this. When can you stop saying it? When is it the proper time or the appropriate time or the socially acceptable time to stop saying Happy New Year? What do you think, you lovely, gorgeous, sexy viewers?
Well, I tell you something, Steve. Steve, guess what? We're going to wish everyone Happy New Year right now. So just in case you didn't receive my greeting last Wednesday, can we both say Happy New Year and welcome? It is a new year and everything is looking rather fresh and new. So Happy New Year to you. We have a lot of things to talk about today. I have to say we have so much going on. Of course, it is myself and Mr. Steve. There he is. A lot of people wonder, or they sometimes think, what the heck am I watching? Well, you are watching me, Mr. Duncan, and also Mr. Steve as well, in the studio, live from a little place called Much Wenlock in England. A beautiful, sleepy part of England. When we say that something is sleepy, we are saying that that particular place is peaceful, quiet, tranquil. Oh, I like that word. Oh, that's a good word. That might be one of my favourite words for today. Tranquil.
Tranquil. Yes, everything's relaxed, everything's calm. No stress, like a tranquil sea or a tranquil lake. There's no waves, it's just flat. There's no breeze. There's no stress. Everything's easy, Mr. Duncan. By the way, Pedro thinks after the first 3 days of the new year is when you stop. I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
Because I was out and about on Friday seeing customers, and I was saying Happy New Year to them, and they were sort of giving me a funny look.
But don't they normally?
That is true. Very quick, Mr. Duncan. Because of course, if I'm going to see customers or people, they're all saying Happy New Year to each other in where they're working, so they're sick to death of it probably. So I come along and say Happy New Year. So yeah, that's it. I'm not saying it next year. That's it. It's all over.
Yeah. So next year, no Happy New Year. But I think it's okay for the first maybe 10 or 12 days. So we are still within that limit. It's okay. We have so much, by the way, to talk about today.
Right.
We have so much. We have a little bit of catch-up to do as well, because there are 1 or 2 things we forgot to show you just after Christmas. So we have a little bit of that. We also have a very friendly cow coming up today. So if you are a fan of our bovine friends, well, you are in for a treat, because we have something nice to show you as well. Today we are talking about taking the mickey. And I would imagine a lot of people are probably wondering what that refers to. So you may have seen the thumbnail, and there is me and Mr. Steve as well on the thumbnail for today's live stream. And you might be wondering why I am making such a fuss of that. Well, we will be talking about that very thing later on. Also, we will be explaining what it means. If you take the mickey, what does it mean? Find out later on. We are also going to Bristol. Oh, a lovely memory, Mr. Steve, from last year.
A nautical memory.
So
nautical of the sea.
That's all we're saying for now. All of that coming up a little bit later on. And I suppose we should start by mentioning a lady that we are both very big fans of, and she is celebrating her birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday for tomorrow to Shirley Bassey.
Oh. Du, 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 du.
What was that?
That was the start of Goldfinger.
Okay. Isn't it more da, da, da,
Well, yes, that's later on.
Da, da,
He always has to interfere.
I do.
Yes. How old is she, did you say?
Tomorrow, Shirley Bassey is 87.
Well, happy birthday, Shirley Bassey. I'm sure you're watching us
I think so.
live from Monaco,
Yes.
which is where she lives.
She's probably sitting there on her sofa in her dressing gown, maybe eating some chips, dipping her chips into some mayonnaise and watching us at the same time. So who knows?
She might be at that casino. You
Yeah.
know, there's a famous casino there, isn't there?
Is there?
Yes, in Monaco. Yes, we've been fans for years. I used to take my mother to see Shirley Bassey. In fact, because I've been very busy sorting out, sort of tidying up one of my rooms that I use for my music thing, I've been going through, finding all these tickets where we used to go and see her in 1986 and things like that. So yes, fabulous. Shirley Bassey, she's not really in fashion anymore, but
What? What are you on about? She's incredibly in fashion.
Is she?
Yes.
But anyway, there's a program about her last night.
That was literally, it's literally all people are talking about today on
Are they?
social media.
Oh,
Yes.
right. Well, I don't go on social media, you see.
Yes, it shows.
So that's it. I don't do the Facebooks and the TikToks and the whatever it is.
Yes, we can tell just from the way you describe them. We can
Yes.
tell. We know.
By the way, it's minus Palmyra.
Okay, Steve, we're just talking about Shirley Bassey.
Oh, right,
at the
then,
moment.
okay.
If you could just stay with me. I'm the presenter, not you. So Shirley Bassey, she's had many big hits. Now, lots of people think of Shirley Bassey from the James Bond themes. Goldfinger, I suppose that's the one. Diamonds Are Forever is another one. But, of course, there are many hits, many big hits that she's had. Wait, what are you doing, Steve?
I'm just writing things down on the live chat because otherwise I won't be able to keep up with it. I'm listening to you.
It looks very weird on screen.
Well,
it looks like you're falling asleep.
I'm writing things. Well, if you rearrange things better so that my eyes would stay up.
Steve, please, we're live.
I know we are. Well, you just. I was fine, happy, just writing away.
Yes. Can you name any songs that Shirley Bassey has had a big hit with, Mr. Steve?
Yes. I Am What I Am.
That is not. Yes, I suppose so.
The Banana Boat Song, I think, was one of her...
I think that was her first one, wasn't it?
First hits. I mean, obviously I wasn't born then. I wasn't, actually. I think she started in the late 50s, didn't she? Yes, Johnny Can Only Sing One Note. I mean, these are ones that probably people don't remember.
Yes, but there are many beautiful ones as well. As Long As He Needs Me, I think she's done a version of that. So many great songs from Shirley Bassey. Now I have to say, it's quite exciting because she is 87, and you might not realise this, Steve. She still puts on the occasional performance. In fact, she did a special live performance last year on BBC, celebrating the anniversary of James Bond movies, and she actually sung Goldfinger live.
Wow.
And last year, of course, she would have been 86. That's incredible, I have to say.
Lewis says, is she older than me? Well, are you older than 87, Lewis? If so, then she's older than you.
Bit personal.
And she's still going. Lewis isn't very well today, by the way. He's got a bit of a cold or flu bug going around. So we hope you feel better soon. But yes, so you're not too far from Monaco, Lewis. You could go off there and see her tomorrow. Maybe get invited to a party.
Yes, it's literally round the corner.
If you can get her autograph, then we'll pop over and collect that from you.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Today, Mr. Steve, we are talking about a lot of things. We have a little bit of catch-up to do because if you remember, do you remember Christmas? It seems like such a long time ago, but many people this weekend are, in fact, celebrating Christmas. That seems strange, doesn't it? Because they follow the Orthodox Christian calendar. So the 6th was Christmas Day. Today is the 7th, so it is the day after Christmas for those who are celebrating it this weekend. So Merry Christmas to everyone. We, by the way, still have the Christmas tree up.
We do. Yes, so it's supposed to be bad luck, but let's touch wood. Hope that we survive. Well, last year we left it up until Easter. So this year we're hoping that we don't get any bad luck. People were complaining, weren't they, on the BBC? People were complaining that the BBC took their tree down on the 2nd. They had a tree in their news studio, and they were complaining that people took the tree down, trying to point out that they're not supposed to take it down to the 12th night. And I can't remember what's that period that ends the.
Is that Epiphany?
Epiphany, that's it. Whatever that means. Maybe somebody can tell us. I meant to look it up. That you're supposed to leave it up until then. But I mean, you know, most people take it down before they go back to work, don't they? I mean, most people take their tree down. They don't wait until the 12th night. Most people take it down before then.
You're supposed to take it down on the night of the 5th, but of course many people don't. We haven't. We love our Christmas trees, so we might keep it up all year. And then
Oh, no.
next Christmas, we won't have to bother with it. We won't have to put it up. It will already be there twinkling away. Anyway, Steve, what I'm trying to get to is Christmas Day, we had the most delicious food. And I forgot to show the photograph of us enjoying our Christmas dinner. Would you like to see it? Here it is. So there is Mr. Steve and myself. This was taken on Christmas Day. I have to say, Steve, you made the most amazing meal.
I did.
It was amazing.
You're absolutely right. I did make the most amazing meal.
It was lovely.
But anyway, yes, it was. It's all gone now, so it's making me feel hungry, Mr. Duncan. I haven't eaten much today,
Well,
and I've been very busy.
okay, we get it. You've only mentioned that 25 times. There it is. Look, just to make Mr. Steve even more hungry.
Ooh,
Look at that. So there it was, the meal we had on Christmas Day. You can see the traditional meal with, at the top, you can see parsnips, sprouts, carrots, 2 very nice sausages, some potatoes, stuffing, and, of course, the prize, the star of the show, the turkey, which I have to say was absolutely amazing. So for those who were wondering, there it was. For those who want to see what our Christmas dinner looks like, there was the Christmas dinner from, well, Christmas just gone, in fact.
fascinating. Saturino says, we tear down the Christmas tree on the 6th of January at Epiphany. Tear it down. That sounds quite aggressive. If you're tearing something down, it means you're... if you use that phrase, we tear it down, it means you're quite aggressively doing something, doesn't it? I'm going to tear down that tree.
It's destruction.
It means, yes, it means you're destroying it in a chaotic manner. You're not doing it carefully. Is that what you did? Did you
You're doing it
literally just tear it down?
Yes, you're doing it aggressively.
Doing it aggressively with no care about the decorations on there. I'm going to tear down that poster. It literally means you are destroying something. Is that what you did, or is that a phrase you just decided to use? But yeah, I mean, you're probably using it and not literally. I wouldn't imagine, but there we go. Yes. By the way, Palmyra. Where does Palmyra live? I can't remember now. I can't remember where Palmyra lives, but it's -15 there.
Yeah.
Palmyra, remind me where you live.
No, you just keep going, Steve.
No, I'm just saying, please remind me where you live, Palmyra, because it's -15. We're supposed to be getting a cold blast of weather next week, so we don't want it to spread this way.
Okay, that's interesting. So we might get a bit of cold weather next week. Who knows? A bit of a chill, although no snow. So it looks as if we will not be getting any snow. Can I say hello to the live chat? Congratulations, Vitas. You were first, by the way. So, congratulations, Vitas. Also, we have Tom. Tom Rocks is here today. Haven't seen you for a while. Also, we have Marcia, Valentin, Christina, Francesco. Also, we have, I suppose I should also say, Luis Mendez is here today. Hello, Luis. Nice to see you here as well. As Mr. Steve mentioned, we have Pedro as well. Pedro Belmont is here as well today. So lots of people joining in. Beatrice. Oh, by the way, Beatrice, we are going to show something amazing in a few moments. Do you remember last year when we met up and had a little bit of an explore? We were exploring a certain place in Bristol last year. So that is coming up as well. Lots of things to talk about.
Palmyra, apparently it's in Lithuania, we seem to think. It's either that or Latvia. It's certainly in Eastern Europe somewhere. So, yes, probably inland, cold. So we hope you're keeping yourself warm. Christina says, and Beatrice agrees, keep your tree up till Easter because it's nice to look at the lights. It is.
Yeah.
We put it on again last night, and it's just nice to see the lights flickering away. It's relaxing, relieves stress. So I think we'll leave it up for a bit longer. I'm not sure we'll leave it up until Easter, but we'll certainly leave it up for a bit longer, I think.
Yes. So there is the superstition, I suppose, that it brings bad luck. But then again, when you think about it, there is no connection, technically, or should I say factually, there is no connection between trees, Christmas trees, and actual Christmas, as in the meaning, the original story. So there isn't really much of a connection. So I don't think it really matters. I think we should keep our Christmas trees up all the time.
Well, the trouble is, Mr. Duncan, they'll get dusty.
Yes.
And you'll get cobwebs. And so, it would lose its sheen because all the dust would fall onto the lights.
Yes.
And
But imagine all of the lovely little insects and wildlife. You could create your own ecosystem inside that Christmas tree.
No, I think we won't leave it. We might. I don't know whether we'll leave it up to Easter. Anyway, we'll keep you informed if you're interested
of the developments.
So, who else is keeping their tree up? Christine, have you kept yours up? So maybe we could have a competition, see who keeps their Christmas tree up the longest this year, and thus who gets the most bad luck. No, I don't think that's true.
Yesterday we went for a lovely walk, even though at the moment the weather is quite bad, and we actually came across a very interesting thing. In fact, something interesting happened. There were some cows in a field, very muddy, but something very strange happened whilst we were with these particular cows. Now, these are Highland cattle. They are normally found in Scotland, but they are also very popular around here. And these are young ones. So these are young Highland cows, and they're so lovely. But look at the size of those horns. I would not like to be on the receiving end of those horns. Aren't they lovely, Steve?
Yes, they're very docile is the word, docile. So if something is docile, it means that they don't, they're quite calm. They're not, running around all over the place making a noise. If you describe an animal or a person as docile, it means they don't do a lot.
Yes. And here's the weird thing, Steve. This is what the cows, well, one of them kept doing. It was licking my boots, and I don't know why. It seemed to find something rather tasty on the end of my boots, and it became quite obsessed. In fact, at one point, they were fighting, which we will see in a few moments. They were actually fighting over my boot. So there you can see. Now we think it might be the salt, don't we, Steve?
Yes, it might. It might have detected a bit of salt on there.
They're fighting.
They're not very docile. They can be. The thing is, they're so heavy and bulky. One little swipe from those horns.
Watch this. Watch, Steve. They start fighting over my boots. Dramatic.
Look at that.
Look at that. Dramatic. A dramatic moment of time there, captured. It's like National Geographic. And then the winner, of course, gets to lick the salt off my boots.
Yes, that particular animal was very obsessed with your boots.
I don't know why.
It was very odd. Yes, they're very hairy cows, Christina, because they're used to living in Scotland, which is normally, very cold in the winter. So it's got to have all that hair to keep itself warm.
Yes.
We feel very sorry for them when we see them in the summer because they look very, very hot. And it looks like the hair even covers their eyes, presumably to protect them against cold, frosty winds.
I think so.
Yeah, it's. I don't know whether they should be brought this far south. Really, it's probably a bit cruel for them in the summer. But never mind.
They don't seem to. They don't seem to mind though. They seem quite content, and they were certainly getting excited when they saw my boots. In a few moments, by the way, Steve. Now you know we like to cover all of the big, important topics here. And in a few moments, we are going to be asking you out there a very important question concerning toilet paper. Ah, yes. So get ready for that. There will be a hot debate coming up in a few moments from now. But do you remember, Steve, last year we did something lovely? Do you remember we had the Paris rendezvous? And then about a week later, we met up with one of our lovely viewers. In fact, one of the same viewers we met in Paris. Do you remember where we went, Mr. Steve?
Bristol.
We went to Bristol. Yes, we went to Bristol, a lovely part of the world. A kind of, I would say it's Western, yes. Very interesting place. A lot of history, apparently a lot of unpleasant history is also connected to Bristol. But we had a look around a very interesting place. An old ship from many, many years ago, and we are going to take a look at it right now as a way of reliving another lovely memory from 2023. And then we will be right back with you.
started my journey into the wall, 'cause I needed something that's so hard to find. You brought all the magic back into my life when I saw you smiling on a Friday night. We are like ships at the sea. We are like ships at the sea. We are like ships at the sea. Like ships at the sea, dear. We are like ships at the sea. We are like ships at the sea. We like ships and the sea, dear. Like ships and the sea, dear. Like ships and the sea, dear. Was late after midnight when planets align. I guess I know now I'm a lucky guy. You came for your treasure, cause you are a pirate. You're sailing towards your favorite island. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. Like ships and the sea, dear. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. Like ships and the sea, dear. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. Like ships and the sea, dear. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. Like ships and the sea, dear. Like ships and the sea, dear. Like ships and the sea, dear. I started my journey into the wall, cause I needed something that's so hard to find. You brought all the magic. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. Like ships and the sea, dear. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. We are like ships and the sea. Like ships and the sea, dear. Like ships and the sea, dear. Like ships and the sea, dear. Like ships and the sea, dear.
A lovely memory there from last year when we met up with Beatrice. Beatrice, do you remember that moment? It was a very special time and one I will never, ever forget. I think it is fair to say. English Addict is with you on a Sunday. It is Sunday, Mr. Steve. Can you believe we are already 7 days into the new year? 2024 has been, well, it's been around for a week. How has it been for you, Mr. Steve?
Exhausting.
I think it's fair to say Mr. Steve is tired already.
I'm tired already. It's funny when I've had 2 weeks off actually from work, but then when you go back, you think that you're rested and refreshed, but then after a couple of days at work, you feel tired again. All my colleagues were saying the same thing. I expect you can concur with that. A lot of you watching, or at least feel the same way. What was the name of that ship says Christina.
Ah, well, I wonder if anyone knows. I wonder if anyone out there actually knows the name of that ship. So don't say anything, Steve, but we will see if anyone knows. It's in Bristol. It's very famous. Albion Dock is where it is moored. But it's the most... I know I said this last year, and I said it many times, Steve, but I think it's one of the most fascinating and interesting museum pieces I've ever seen, because the whole thing was recreated and you could actually stand underneath the ship. You could look at the hull, and above you they had created fake water, so it was almost as if you were underwater. It was the most amazing thing, and inside the ship. And as we pointed out last year, they even made the smell from the toilet on the ship smell really disgusting.
At least we think that's what it was.
We think, or maybe someone had used it and they forgot to flush. Talking of which, Mr. Steve,
yeah,
we have a big debate coming now, and this is one that I've noticed that the internet has been very vocal whilst talking about, and here it is. Here is the big debate, Mr. Steve. Now, we all use toilet paper. It is a very common thing in our lives. Without it, well, there might be one or two sore points, let's just say. But the big question concerning toilet paper is it under or over? How is the right way? What is the right way, Mr. Steve, to hang your toilet paper? Is it under, so it faces the wall, or it's resting against the wall, or is it over, like there, where it is hanging at the front? And some people get very... There have been arguments, fights on the internet over what is the best way to hang your toilet paper. So what about you, Mr. Steve?
Well, Marcia, I actually, it's about convenience. What is easier, and over for me is definitely easier to tear off the pieces of paper. I think if it's, under is probably neater, but it's not as convenient. I think over is easier to use. Marcia says over. Beatrice says over. Tudzika says under with 2 exclamation marks.
You see, it's already happening.
And we've got 2 unders and 2 overs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so people are already so the unders are overtaking the overs.
My goodness.
But is that because of aesthetics?
I think. Now, if you ever go to a hotel, Mr. Steve, you'll notice that the toilet roll is always folded like that, isn't it? They always have a little fold there.
The other way round, though, isn't it?
Yes, I know. I'm just showing it, the detail of it. But so it always looks like that.
A quality hotel will fold the toilet paper.
But do you know why they do that?
So that it looks nice and neat?
No, it's to show that the room was tended to.
Oh, right.
And everything in there was replaced. So in hotels, when they do all of they change everything in the bathroom, that is what you look for in the bathroom. You will look for your toilet roll with the little triangle at the end. And the best way to do it, of course, is to have it hanging over. That is the best way to display the little triangle at the end. So what the person will do, they will fold the end of the toilet roll, and it hangs like that in a lovely way. But it also allows the person coming into the room to know that that room is ready and it has been completely prepared. So now you know.
Certainly in hotels it's always over. I've never seen it under in a hotel.
Yeah, and that's the reason why.
Well, yes. Saturina thinks it's more hygienic if it's over, because then you're not touching the wall and making it dirty.
Yes.
With whatever's on your fingers.
And of course, you don't know what's on the wall.
Well, that's it exactly. You don't want to touch the wall, do you? Patrick says the inconvenience is when it's empty. Yeah, that's it. You're sitting there and you realise that you need more paper, but you haven't got any in the room where you are, the bathroom.
That is it. That is the worst possible scenario.
Yes.
The other one, of course, and I think we've all been here or there, is going to a strange place to take a poop. I think that's it, isn't it? Now, a lot of people do have the same thing as me. I suffer from shy poop, and I can't poop in public places or public toilets or anywhere where I know other people are coming in and out of. So I can't. I have to have my lovely comfortable poop at home, surrounded by all my familiar things. So that is another thing that I have. But of course, the problem is if you go to a public one, there might be no toilet paper in there.
You've got to check before you commit.
Yes, before you start the process, and then you're left there because you're stuck there. Then, aren't you? You can't just pull everything up and have a look around because, there's a few barnacles on the hull. Let's just say.
I think we should change the subject, Mr. Duncan.
So
although
I think it is fair to say that over is the more popular one. And I've seen some people, I don't know if you've seen this, Steve, but I've seen people who actually have more than one roll of toilet paper hanging up. So that there is a thing you can buy that is long. It's a long pole, and you can actually put lots and lots of toilet rolls on at the same time. And I think that is done to make sure that you never run out of toilet paper.
Well, here's an interesting fact for children going to school and doing art classes. They always, when we were children, and they used to do this a lot, I don't know if they still do in other countries, they used to ask you to bring in your used toilet rolls, didn't they? The cardboard roll that's left at the end.
Oh.
They used to ask you to bring them in, and then you can paint them and make things with them at school. We used to do that when we were younger. Bring in your toilet rolls and we can use them in art classes. Well, it's been banned in the UK.
My gosh.
You cannot any longer bring in your used toilet rolls.
Why?
Because somebody discovered that, let's just say, they did some tests on the toilet rolls, and let's just say they had, some unfriendly bacteria on them and substances. So they're now banned from use in schools in the UK for art classes, because it used to be a good thing to bring into to school, didn't it? Used to make things out of them. Imagine all the children, there's hundreds of these, dozens of these. You can make things out of them, can't you, in primary school or something?
I used to make binoculars. If you got 2 toilet roll holders, you could put them to your eyes and then use them as binoculars like that. Yeah. So
Palmyra.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting question. What do you do with the paper when you've used it to wipe? Do you put it into the bowl of the toilet, or do you put it into a bin?
Ah, yes, because some places, if you go abroad, when I say abroad, I mean on the continent, and you might find that sometimes they don't allow you to put solid things or things like paper down the toilet. You have to put them into a little bin, a little pedal bin that opens, and you put all of your poopy paper into that. I know, it's very strange, that. I don't like that. My favourite, of course...
Well, that's because, can I just say, that's because in certainly when we used to go on holiday to Greece, it was always a big talking point for Brits going abroad to Greece, because in the UK we've got wide pipes, sewer pipes, and but in Greece they're very small and narrow, so they get blocked very easily. So whenever we go abroad to Greece on holiday, I don't know about other European countries, but certainly in Greece, there are always quite strict instructions for visitors from the UK to make sure that they don't put the toilet paper down the toilet because it will block the narrow pipes. Whereas in the UK, we've got these huge pipes that can virtually take any amount of paper.
Yes, any amount of anything.
Rosa says that with toilet rolls, she boils them and puts tomato and chicken sauce on them. I think that's a joke.
I hope it is. By the way, the ship, for those wondering what the ship is called in the video, it is, of course, Mr. Steve. Shall we say it after 3?
SS.
The SS.
Great Britain.
Great Britain. I wasn't sure if you were ready then. The SS Great Britain, by the way, an explorer ship and also used for carrying trade backwards and forwards, designed and built by Isambard Kingdom, Brunel.
Now, did it go across to, I can't remember, was it America or was it Australia?
It was long, yes, it was all the way, baby.
I think it was Australia, wasn't it?
It did the big long, I was going to say cruises, but I don't think it is a cruise. That passage, you often talk about passage, don't you? When you're talking about sailing,
Yes.
You have passage. You are able to go from one place to another and pass through without being stopped in any way.
It was like a hybrid. I mean, we talk about hybrid cars now, you know, with batteries and an engine. Well, that one was an unusual. That was a hybrid because it had sails, but it also had an engine as well.
Yes,
with a propeller, so it could, when there was no wind, it could power itself along. So yeah, very interesting. Somebody asked, I think it was Giovanni asked, how far is that from Much Wenlock? It's about 90 miles, I would say, probably about 120 kilometres, something like that.
It takes about, I'd say, over 2 hours to get there.
Yeah, maybe it's a bit longer than that. Certainly at least 120 kilometres, I would say, away.
A place called Bristol.
Bristol.
And if you get a chance, by the way, if you ever go to Bristol, go and have a look at the SS Great Britain. It is the most amazing experience. It looks good on video, but can I just say, it's even better in real life. It is absolutely amazing. Really, really good fun.
Oh, by the way, the sauce that I thought that Rosa was boiling toilet rolls and putting tomato and chicken sauce on them. No, she was talking with Saturina about gnocchi. I think that's how you pronounce it. So they were not talking about something you can do with used toilet rolls.
So if someone comes up to you and asks if you would like a little gnocchi, they're not making a rude comment. They're actually inviting you for something to eat. By the way, don't forget to give me a like. If you like this thing you are watching now on your screen, then please give me a lovely thumbs up. We're going to take a break in a few moments, Steve. I think something we haven't done for a long time. We haven't done Flags of the World for a long time, and I think Pedro is here still.
Is he?
We are. Well, he was. Well, you mentioned him earlier.
I know, that was a long time ago.
Oh, I see.
Pedro tends to come on for a bit and then leave. Are you still there, Pedro?
Flags of the World coming up.
In which case, you'll have Flags of the World at 3:00.
Can I say hello to Aziz? Hello, Aziz. Mr. Steve and Mr. Duncan, how are you doing? I have to say, we're doing quite well. Looking forward to the rest of this year. We are only 7 days into the new year. I don't know if you saw, Steve, because we've had a very dramatic time across the world with various events. Did you see yesterday the most terrifying thing that could happen whilst you are flying in an aeroplane? Did you see it?
The doors opening? No, I didn't see that, Mr. Duncan.
It was one of those 747 Air Maxes. If you remember, they were involved in 2 terrible crashes.
Oh, yes.
And then they were stopped. Well, yesterday, one of those actual planes was flying, and the passenger door, one of the passenger doors, flew off.
Oh, blimey! That plane is not
While it was flying.
having a good reputation. Really, but the door just flew off.
The door vanished with also the frame around it just vanished. So
Wow.
basically a section of the fuselage just broke away and flew away. And all the passengers are sitting there with this huge exposed hole of the plane, and they're looking out, and you can see the ground beneath and everything.
Was everyone all right?
Yes, they landed the plane. I think it had taken off about 2 or 3 minutes before, so it was still just going up. So they circled round and came back and landed.
So everybody still had their seatbelts on, which otherwise somebody would have been sucked out.
Or blown out.
Yeah.
Yes, apparently they call it
Sucked
blowing out. You don't get sucked out, you get blown out. Strange
Okay.
that, isn't it? I think it's because
yes,
of
that's
the
the pressure. The pressure's lower, so yeah,
So
the
rather
air's
being-
trying to go in, isn't it?
So instead of being sucked, you are blown.
Right. Well, whichever. You don't want it to happen.
Certainly not in that situation, anyway. We're coming up to 3 o'clock, Mr. Steve. Can you believe already we've been here for an hour? We still have lots of things to come. Coming up in the next hour, we're talking about copyright. We're talking about what happens when something stops being in copyright, and also what happens when a person invents something. What happens? What does it all mean? Find out a little bit later on. Flanks of the World is coming up. And I have to say, can I just mention this because I haven't mentioned it yet? Look at Mr. Steve's Cozy Corner. Isn't that the most amazing, comfortable place? And I have to say, the only problem now is, I've noticed, Steve, you seem to be a little too comfortable.
I'm not sure about the flags. They're shimmering away, aren't they? Shimmering.
They're not flags.
Sorry, they're feathers.
They're actually ferns, like ferns on a small bush. But I like the colours, and I think it looks very inviting.
They look like feathers. They're shimmering. If something shimmers, it means it's sort of reflecting the light in a sort of random, fast way. Like the shimmering ocean with the sun shining on it, shimmering. And these are shimmering.
Yes, I think it looks lovely.
Is the word. There's a good word for you, Mr. Duncan. I
Shimmer.
just thought I'd throw that in as we're an English teaching channel.
Shimmer. I like it. So there is Mr. Steve's comfortable corner, and I happen to think that, well, all I'm thinking now, Steve, is I might get myself a chair, because I stand when I'm doing this and you sit down. And now I'm thinking maybe I should have a chair as well. So that's my train of thought. Here we go then. We're coming up to 3 o'clock, and you know what's coming next. Because, well, I just said what is coming next, didn't I? That's why. Here it comes. You know what is coming up. It is the wonderful, super duper 3 p.m. UK time English Addict. Flags of the World. those flags of the world for those who like to see their flag waving around. This is English Addict. It is Sunday afternoon, just after 3 o'clock, and we are live as live can be. Okay, we're not talking about toilets anymore. Don't worry, you can come back now.
Good.
It is myself, Mr. Duncan, and Mr. Steve. Hello to everyone watching out there in YouTube land. It is so nice to see you here again. In a few moments, we're looking at words and phrases connected to, well, if you make fun of someone. Now, when we do this quite often in social situations, you make fun. You might make a joke at someone else's expense. That means you are making a joke of another person. Maybe you are making another person look foolish or silly in some way. You are trying to embarrass them. So that is what we are looking at. But there is one part of doing this, Mr. Steve, that always causes me a lot of stress. And that particular thing is copyright. Copyright is, now anyone who publishes anything or prints anything that is someone else's property, you have to sometimes make sure that they allow you to do it. And because of that, you need to make sure that you have their permission before you reproduce that particular thing. So we often talk about copyright, and in my life, I have to say, Steve, in my day-to-day life, I have been on the very sharp end of copyright. So I thought it would be very interesting, just very briefly, to have a quick look at copyright. What does it mean? It's a very complicated thing, but it is also a very important thing as well. So when we talk about copyright, there's me, by the way. That's me there. I'm Mickey Mouse. Or more about that in a moment. Copyright protects the owner or the creator of a certain piece of intellectual property. So when we talk about intellectual property, we are talking about something that's come from in here. A person has created that particular thing using their brain. Can you think of an example, Mr. Steve?
Music, particularly. If somebody writes some music, then that's copyrighted, and nobody is allowed. Well, you can reproduce it, but you've got to ask permission, or create it in a different format or a different version of it. I mean, I know you're going to talk about one particular thing. I mean, I know music, for example, in the choirs that I'm in, if music is got 100-year rule on it, in that you're not, isn't that right, Mr. Duncan? Well, you're not allowed to play something. You've got to ask for copyright if it's 100 years. If it's over 100 years old, you don't have to ask permission, in fact, to reproduce it.
Steve, it's actually 70 years.
70 years, is it?
Yes. In the UK,
right,
the copyright laws are slightly different from everywhere else in the world. So, for example, music, things that have been created in that sense, you have 70 years to use that as your own protected piece of intellectual property. Then after that, it goes into the public domain, which I would explain in a few moments as my voice starts to break up. So when we talk about intellectual property, we often refer to it as IP. So when you hear people talking about IP, quite often it is about intellectual property, something that a person has created by themselves. I suppose a good example would be J.K. Rowling. So Harry Potter is her intellectual property. It belongs to her. But in 70 years from now, maybe it won't be hers. It will become public domain. But there are some other slight differences as well in those rules. It depends also when the creator of that piece of work died as well. So it is a little bit complicated. So this year, and this is the reason why I have Mickey Mouse here, Steve, on the 1st of January 2024, the copyright ownership of Mickey Mouse went into the public domain. And that is because it came out of copyright. It was no longer protected by copyright laws. And that is because a certain period of time had passed. So because it was, I think it's actually longer than 70 years now, but of course it's been a certain number of years since Walt Disney died as well. So because of those two things happening, one after the other, it has now come into the public domain. And as you know, Steve, if there is one group of people, if there's one company that is very protective of its copyright, it is Disney. So this coming out of copyright is a very big thing. It's a huge thing. And already I've noticed that many people on YouTube have uploaded Mickey Mouse cartoons, the very early Mickey Mouse cartoons. They've all been uploaded onto YouTube, and there is nothing anyone can do about it. They can't do anything. You can even have your own adverts or run your own promotions on it, on that video, because it's now in the public domain.
Right.
So you do, but of course it's worth mentioning that things that were produced later may still be in copyright, but the actual character form, the form of that character, is now in the public domain. Most copyright will expire after a certain amount of time has passed. In the UK, for example, if it's written, a novel or a play, it is normally 70 years after the author's death. But with music that is, for example, a record or some sort of recorded music, it's normally 70 years after it was published, that piece of music that you can listen to. So it is very strange. And also films as well. So films, you have to wait, I think it's 50 years after the death of the director or the screenplay writer as well. So you can see that they are well protected. I suppose you could say that 50 years or 70 years is a good, I think it's very fair. Would you say so, Steve?
Yes, it gives the creator time to get the money back for their creation, or to earn an income from it. Yes, I mean, yeah, that's it's different with some things, like with drugs, for example. I know that pharmaceutical companies, they used to get 20 years on a patent. I think it's different for things like patents on drugs or inventions. I think the time period is less.
We are going to look at that in a moment.
Oh, right, okay. But I know for a pharmaceutical company that comes up with, that creates a new drug, they only have 10 years now in which to have exclusive rights to sell that product and get the money back. And it costs a lot of money to invent a new and get it through all the stages of approving a new drug. And you only have 10 years to get the money back now before anybody else can make it. But obviously for things, as you say, like art or music, it's a bit longer.
So it's interesting to note that many old movies and also music are now in the public domain. You can use them and no one can do anything about it. This means that they can be copied and used without needing any permission. So quite often, if you think of movies from the 1920s or 1930s, you will find that many of those movies now are in the public domain. You can share them, you can edit them, you can reproduce them, and you can do them without having to worry. So we often talk about things being in the public domain. That means it is open for use by anyone, and quite often in any way. I don't know if you remember, Steve, a few years ago there was the big controversy about Happy Birthday, singing Happy Birthday. And some people seem to think it was still in copyright, but in fact it was the music that was still in copyright, not the lyrics, as I understand it. So it is interesting to note that how copyright can be quite a complicated thing. But these days, of course, because we are on YouTube and because lots of people want to make money somehow, there are many people these days who are, of course, writing music and producing music for use on the internet. And as I understand it, I think there is only 25 years on that, which means all of my work might only have 25 years to exist before anyone can use it. Although I don't think I'm too worried about it, although I am quite worried about it because, of course, I'm coming up to 18 years already on YouTube. So
thing is for you, it's so easy for people to copy off and rip things off the internet. Unless you're prepared to take them to court, then they pretty much can get away with it, can't they?
Yes.
It's big companies that can afford the lawyers and solicitors and to take somebody to court that can actually afford to enforce this copyright rule. The average person hasn't got the resources, the financial resources, like you, Mr. Duncan. If somebody decided, and they do this, don't they?
They do.
They rip your videos off your channel and put them onto their own and earn money from it. But unless you're prepared to go to court, which would cost you a lot of money, then they pretty much can get away with it.
Yes. So if you're wealthy, you normally find that most disputes with copyright are normally between two millionaires or large, rich and wealthy companies. So very rarely do the average people like me get involved in that, because you have to have lawyers, solicitors, it costs a lot of money, and then you might lose, and then you have to pay all of the expenses. Oh my goodness. So it can be a little difficult.
Vitas asks an interesting question.
Okay.
What about singing the national anthem?
Okay.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Yes, but I don't know when that was written. I presume it was a long time ago. I presume it's all right to sing it in public, but it's probably, I don't know whether it's all right to sing it if we were to sing it now.
No, I think it's okay, Steve.
Yeah, so
Are
there different rules that apply to that? Is it over 170 years old? I presume it is.
I think you will find the national anthem is out of copyright.
Yes.
And certainly the tune to God Save the Queen is a very old piece of music. It's often played in the United States during military services, and it's very strange, isn't it? So you don't think of the national anthem of this country being used in other countries, but the United States will often play the same tune, because I think the tune is older than the lyrics, as I understand it. But I think you will find those sorts of things are completely out of copyright and in the public domain. You can always check. And then
but
you
it's certainly...
you can say, Mr. Duncan, you were wrong.
No, it probably is old. I mean, they were. I don't know when they were probably singing that in Victoria's time. I don't know. I would imagine they probably were. So it's well over 100 years old, that bit of music.
Yes.
So I think it's probably all right. But if you were to, it's the same with music. So it goes out of copyright. That's interesting with music, isn't it? So something might go out of copyright. So, for example, Beethoven. You can play Beethoven's music. We could play it on here, as long as it was our own version. But if you were to play a recording of an orchestra that played a Beethoven symphony maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you couldn't play that because that would be the copyright then of the people that created that version of
That's it.
But you could create your own version and not have to pay any royalties. That would be fine.
Yes. And this is why copyright is such a strange subject. So you might play a piece of classical music on here, but the performance was only 10 years ago. So that they are within their rights to claim copyright on this video because it's their performance. Whereas if Mr. Steve and myself decided to get our instruments and perform Beethoven's Fifth Symphony here in the studio, it's okay because it's out of copyright, and then that belongs to us, that particular performance.
Our version.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
It is a very, very strange subject. By the way, Steve, talking of Mickey Mouse, there is a phrase in English we often use when we want to describe something that is amateur or unprofessional, maybe something that is done in an unprofessional way. We often describe it as a Mickey Mouse operation or a Mickey Mouse team, or maybe the way they do something in a very unprofessional and maybe in a clumsy or careless way. So maybe you have a dealing with a company. Maybe you have some windows, some double glazing put into your house. And then a week later, they all start falling out one by one. And you might say, oh, I wish I hadn't had that double glazing company. They're a bit of a Mickey Mouse operation. It means they are not very good at what they do.
Yes, because Mickey Mouse is a sort of, as a character, a sort of not a serious character. Well, not a serious figure. Sort of has fun, laughs, jokes, that sort of thing. So yes, if you've got a Mickey Mouse operation or a Mickey Mouse company, it means it's not really very professional, not really something you would trust. So you could say, well, I wouldn't have any dealings with those solicitors. They're a bit of a Mickey Mouse outfit or company.
Yes.
It means they're not very good at what they do.
Yes. It's a very interesting phrase, though, and it is used quite often.
Yeah, it is. It's used quite a lot in this country.
I think you might find it used more in British English than American English, but I still think it's quite an interesting one to take note of. By the way, we're having a break in a moment, Steve.
Okay, yes, it's definitely something, it's a criticism of a company.
In a few moments, we are talking once again about that very famous character, Mickey Mouse. But in this particular situation, we are using it in the form of a phrase. So now we will take a little refreshment, and you can as well if you want. We will be back, and there will be more English Addict coming up right after this. It is English Addict, and we are with you on Sunday afternoon. Here he is, he's back, he's had a little lie down on the floor. Mr. Steve is back with us, joining us in the studio. Are you okay, Steve?
I'm fine. I'm
Good.
fine. Charlotte makes a good point, Charlotte Martin, about if you're acting in a play, and it's the same for when I'm doing musicals. You have to pay money to the authors. You have to pay royalties is the other word for that. Because most of these are still a lot of popular shows that I've been in, sort of written in the 50s or 60s, they're still within that 70-year period, aren't they?
Yes.
Whereas if we put on a Gilbert and Sullivan production, because it's what they were written in the 1800s, some of them, they're well out of copyright, so they're very cheap to put on. We don't have to pay any royalties to the authors because they've been dead for over 70 years. Whereas if you're putting on a modern play or a musical, quite often you'll have to pay royalties because they're still within that period of time.
It's interesting, actually, how it varies as well. So there is a difference between the period of time since the author died and also when it was first published. So it does depend. I wonder what the Harold Pinter play was. What was the play you were doing? I wonder. Let's ask, shall we? So what was the play you were doing, Charlotte? Harold Pinter, very famous writer. Hello, Rhubarb. Rhubarb, the music of the song God Save the Queen is also the music of the anthem of the Luxembourg and the USA until 1931. And that is the reason why it's often used in the United States. It just seemed out of place to us because we are used to singing it as our national anthem. But of course, it was used quite widely until 1931 in the US and also in Luxembourg as well. So I think it's safe to say, Steve, that is out of copyright.
I'd like to know who wrote that music, actually, if somebody wants to look that up or if somebody knows that particular melody. It would be good to know. But yes, and when it was written as well.
Dorothy. Hello, Dorothy. Your cover picture for your lessons are the most beautiful and funniest of all. I haven't seen any better ones. Thank you very much. I do put a lot of work and effort into the thumbnails that appear on my YouTube lessons and my videos. For example, this one. This is today's, by the way. And you can see we are talking about taking the mickey. That is what we are talking about in a few moments. Thank you, Dorothy. That's very kind of you to say. I do like doing that. Sometimes I can't resist. It's a little bit like having an itch. Sometimes I have to do something creative or else I go crazy, you see. So I like to do that. It is a good way of having an outlet. Sometimes that creativity is inside and it has to come out somehow. So thank you, Dorothy. That's very kind of you. We are going to talk about an interesting subject, and this is one that people might refer to in day-to-day life. It can also be something that gets you into a lot of trouble, Steve. So that coming in a few moments. By the way, Steve was talking about patent earlier. When you invent something, when you create something, we often use the word patent. And that means that particular thing you have created now belongs to you. So only you are allowed to make that thing or reproduce that thing. That thing belongs to you. Of course, you can let other people use it, but you are then allowed to ask for money. So patent. Now, as Steve rightly said, you mentioned, Steve, that certain things have a limited amount of time. I remember many years ago when a certain type of vacuum cleaner came on the market, and it had a new type of technology, and no one else could use it. So that had a patent protecting that particular type of technology. But then, of course, after a certain period of time, that particular patent ran out. So there's normally, I think it's 15, maybe even 20 years or 10 years, as Steve mentioned earlier.
It certainly is, I know, with drugs.
Hmm.
It is only 10 years. I think it used to be 20.
Yes. So with things like pharmaceuticals, it's normally 10 years.
Yes. Whereas I don't know if it's different. Say you invent, I don't know, the iPhone or something like that, or some bit of technology. If you invent something, you've got to go and get it registered, haven't you, to prevent?
But you are right. Yes, I believe the smartphone, when the first smartphones were released, they couldn't be copied. And that's the reason why now you see them everywhere. And I think that is the same situation. If you take something that you have invented yourself and you make a record somewhere that you are the person who created it, you have a certain amount of time that you can use it, but exclusively for yourself. No one else can. And then after that period, anyone can. Someone has mentioned, yes, Christina, I knew a woman would know which brand of vacuum cleaner I was talking about. It had to be a lady, didn't it, when you think about it? So you are right. Yes, so you won't see it made by anyone else, and then suddenly everyone is making it. So that's what's happened with that particular type of vacuum cleaner.
Yes, it's strange that inventions have a much shorter time period when other people can then copy it. Whereas music and writing, it's a lot longer. Strange that. Not sure why that is. If you write some music, as you say, it's 70 years or after the author died, that somebody else can copy it and perform it without having to pay royalties. But with inventions, it's a lot less than that. I don't know why.
I always find that quite interesting, especially from that particular point of view, that you can only benefit from your own invention for a short period of time.
Yes.
And quite often it is within your own lifetime. So you might find suddenly that wonderful idea you had is after a certain period, it can be used by anyone else. So I suppose you have to make sure that you always come up with something new or something different. And I think that's what that particular manufacturer of the vacuum cleaners, I'm not going to mention their name because they have too much publicity as it is, but you know who I'm talking about. And I think it's the same with any technology. You have to always come along with something slightly new that you've created yourself, and then you can make it yourself for a certain period of time. It is quite an interesting thing. You patent something.
Or in America, patent.
That's it, yes.
Patent, they would pronounce it in America. We say patent because we're posh.
And if you have the copyright to something, that means you own that particular thing. Only you can reproduce it. Only you can have that thing as your own piece of work or your own intellectual property. We only have half an hour to go, Mr. Steve. We are talking about lots of things today. A very busy one today, I have to say. Today we are also talking about Mickey Mouse, and we are talking about things that have gone out of copyright. Here is a phrase that we often use in English, Mr. Steve, when we are being accused of making fun of someone, or maybe trying to make a person seem silly or ridiculous or even stupid. The phrase is taking the mickey. You take the mickey. So quite often we will use this in English as a way of expressing derision. If a person is making fun of you, maybe you made a mistake and another person is teasing you, or maybe they are just making fun of something you are doing. That we can say that they are taking the mickey.
So does that come from Mickey Mouse, that phrase?
I will explain that later.
Ah.
You might be surprised to find out why we
Yes.
say take the mickey. And it has nothing to do with Mickey Mouse.
Oh.
Oh, all of that to come. So if you are taking the mickey, Mr. Steve, you make fun of someone. So in this particular sense, you are picking someone, you are choosing a person, and then you are highlighting part of their personality or their character that you think is funny. You are trying to embarrass them. Is that right?
Yes. You make fun of somebody, maybe something to do with their appearance, maybe less so appearance now because that right upsets people, but you might make fun of their accent. For example, if someone has an accent and you copy that accent and you talk in the same accent they do, you can be said to be taking the mickey or making fun of somebody. Or maybe it's a mannerism of somebody, that they have a particular mannerism. When I say mannerism, they might have certain things that they do when they're talking with their hands or certain phrases, and you might take the mickey out of your boss behind their back. If you do something behind somebody's back, it means you do it without them knowing. That's quite common, to take the mickey out of somebody behind their back. You're all having a laugh together, and you might be copying. Somebody might be impersonating the way somebody speaks, in an unkind way. Whereas you can take the mickey out of somebody that it's not offensive, as long as that is the sort of the culture, and the other person's not going to be upset. A lot of comedy, particularly British comedy, used to rely on this. Used to take the fun out of Irish accents and Scottish accents and Welsh accents, and there used to be characters in comedy that were Welsh characters, and you would be like an over-the-top exaggeration of the way that they talk.
I suppose the word we could use is a caricature.
Caricature.
You're taking those things and you are almost making them seem more than they really are. You are taking the mickey. You are making fun of that particular type of person.
Quite often seen nowadays as not appropriate. But I think you need to be able to, I think done in the right way, there's nothing wrong with it, because you've got to be able to laugh at yourself. If somebody takes the mickey out of it, as long as it's not done in a cruel way, I think this is often lost, I think, in today's world.
Well, I suppose it depends what it is. If you're imitating or taking or making fun of a person's race or the colour of their skin, that is a definite no.
Yes.
So maybe in the past that was okay, but now it isn't. Here we go. Some more meanings.
Sorry, Mr. Duncan. As this says, is mocking? Is that the same thing? Would you say
it is similar? Yes. We'll
mocking,
be looking at
same thing. Mocking is something that's done in a cruel way to upset somebody.
Yes. You're impersonating a person. You're mocking them. You're trying to highlight.
Put them down.
Their flaws and make them look ridiculous.
Whereas if you're taking the mickey, it could be done in a fun way that's not necessarily... If you're mocking somebody, you're definitely going to upset them. It's done in a cruel way. Whereas taking the mickey could be done in a way that is... Everyone will laugh, including the person. I think sometimes you need to be able to laugh at yourself.
Yes.
I think you can't take yourself too seriously. So if you do have particular mannerisms...
But it's different if you're doing it to yourself.
Yes.
Because you are giving yourself permission.
Yes, and I mean, if you've got certain friends and you know them very well, you can take the mickey out of each other in that safe environment. But you've got to know somebody quite well so that they don't get upset. If you didn't know somebody very well, you went to a party and they had a strong accent,
Anyway.
you wouldn't immediately start imitating that because they don't know you. It would upset them. But
Okay,
if you,
Steve.
in the right environment, you can take the mickey out of somebody. It can all be quite funny and everyone can have a laugh together.
Okay, we're going to look at all of this, by the way.
Okay.
You've just saved me having to do anything else on today's live stream. No, I'm just joking. I'm just taking the mickey. To deride someone. Deride. So again, it's a bit like what you just said, Steve, about if you mock someone, you are openly making fun of that person. So that is being done in a mean or spiteful way. You are trying to make that person feel bad about themselves. Deride someone. Here's another one. Scoff. Now I like this word, even though it can be used in a lot of different ways. If you scoff at someone, you are making fun of them, or maybe you are not, I would say you are not respecting their authority, perhaps. You scoff at that person. You make fun of them. You don't take them very seriously.
You'd be laughing as you made criticism about that person. You're criticising somebody. You're scoffing. You're criticising them and making fun of them, which can be seen as disrespectful
and offensive. Even offensive.
Yes, even offensive. You've got to be very careful now. Nowadays, even more so. I mean, it can be a form of bullying. If you take the mickey out of people at school, in the workplace, it can be seen as a form of bullying. So if you are going to take the mickey out of somebody, you've got to be prepared that somebody's going to do it back to you. As I say, it's got in the right environment. It can be. I've got friends, and I might go to see them, and they might take the mickey out of me sometimes, and I will laugh because I can see sometimes I know I'm a bit eccentric at times, and I can take the mickey out of them. If you know each other quite well, you can do it, as long as it's not cruel. And as long as it's not about your appearance or something. I mean, people will say to me, oh, baldy or slaphead or something.
Well, that's not fun.
Or they'll say, oh, it's all right. I'll take the mickey out of myself. People are about me not having hair.
Yes.
I mean, if you do it, you can take the mickey out of yourself to other people.
But that's it. You're giving yourself permission to do it, though.
That's it.
You can't offend yourself by making fun of yourself, because you're already giving permission for yourself to do it.
It's very tricky to do it and not upset somebody, because again, you don't know what mood somebody's in. Even if you know them very well, they might be feeling particularly sensitive that day, and then you might take the mickey out of them about their appearance. I mean, for example, somebody has a new hairstyle. I mean, we used to do it a lot when I grew up. My father was always taking the mickey out of us when we were children.
Nice.
And if he saw somebody and if I had a new shirt on, he'd say, "Oh, you're wearing your pajamas, are you, today?" Or something like that, because it might have stripes in it, or a hairstyle. My father would often joke and take the mickey, and my grandfather was the same. I don't know whether that's a generation thing, but it was often as well taking the mickey out of. So if somebody is too serious about themselves and a bit egotistical, you can put them down, put them in their place a bit by taking the mickey out of them.
Yes.
If sometimes somebody is too serious and is being too pompous about themselves. Maybe they're dressing completely over the top, and they think a lot of themselves.
Okay.
You can take the mickey out of somebody to sort of deflate them a bit, because sometimes people are a bit. You've got to be careful though, and I think a lot of people on the live stream here are saying that they don't like taking the mickey. I think it's a cultural thing as well.
Yes.
In the right environment, it can be fine.
I think you're right. It is a cultural thing. And I've said this before. No one does sarcasm or taking the mickey or making fun of someone better than the British. We really are. We are masters of sarcasm. We really are. We're very good at it. We have a very dry sense of humour. So quite often those two things come together.
I think it is cultural. Nitram says, here's a good phrase, can't take a joke.
Yes.
Some people, if you make a joke about somebody, which, I mean, we do a lot in this country. When I grew up, people would always be taking the mickey out of you, joking, laughing. I think if you take it too seriously, as long as they're not being deliberately cruel.
Yes, there are limits.
There are limits.
Again, if it's a person's race or even their gender, or maybe
Yes.
they have a disability. If someone comes to work for the first time and they're in a wheelchair, you don't ask them how many miles to the gallon they get. You see that's not something you would do when you're introducing yourself.
Yes.
But maybe after a few months and you realise that person can take these jokes, then you can make the jokes. But unfamiliar people, if you don't know that person, you don't
Yes.
normally make those sorts of personal jokes at all.
Can't take a joke is a good phrase. Ask Will Smith,
Yes,
says Nitram.
that's it, because he got a little bit offended.
And
because-
I know people, we all know people who they like to give it, but they can't take it.
That's common.
Yes, so they like to give out criticism about people or take the mickey out of people, but as soon as you do it back to them, they get very upset and very defensive and personal.
Yes.
And I think it very much is cultural and very much to do with the people you know. How well do you know them?
Yes. And of course, there is a great expression in English: familiarity breeds contempt. Quite often, the more or the better you know someone, the more or the more often you will take liberties with them. It's quite interesting.
But I think you do need to be able to laugh at yourself. If something's pointed out to you that's funny about you,
Okay.
that makes people laugh, sometimes you've got to be able to laugh at yourself.
Okay. Anyway, we've got to move on, Steve. We've got
it-
about another 15 of these. To poke fun. Poke.
Poke fun.
Poke fun. If you poke fun, it means you are saying something to a person. You are not humiliating them, but you poke fun. You are just making a comment about part of their character or their appearance. As Steve said a few moments ago about his father and his sarcasm. So quite often, familiar people will poke fun at each other. Here's another one. I've got to rush through some of these.
Okay.
Mr. Steve. Oh.
Oh.
We have to have this. I know it's swearing. I know it's rude. But if you take the piss, it is a vulgar way of saying take the mickey.
No, you're taking the... Yeah.
You're taking-
Sometimes you can use that phrase if somebody, not necessarily can be used taking the mickey. That's often used if, say, for example, your boss at work or somebody comes up and says, can you lend me £1,000? I want to go and buy something, and you might say, "Oh, you're taking the," because what you're saying is, you're not really seriously thinking
Yes.
that I'm going to lend you some money.
Yes, that person seems to be taking advantage of you.
Taking advantage. There we go. Someone's trying to take advantage of you, and you recognise that. You can say, "Oh, you're taking the pee, are you?
Yes, taking the piss.
Oh, can I borrow your car for the weekend? Oh, don't be ridiculous. You're taking the. You wouldn't ever lend your car to this person because they might crash it or something like
Yes.
that. But yes.
Anyway, that's it. So it is vulgar
Vulgar way of saying taking the mickey.
But many people use it in British English. But of course, in American English, that particular word is not really swearing, because a person can be annoyed by something, or maybe they feel annoyed by a certain thing. They feel pissed off. So that's quite often used in American English. And it's quite acceptable, even on television, to say that. But this normally still, it is still seen as vulgar.
Are you going to mention that thing in the United States where they get a celebrity and they roast them?
Yes. Well, that is very similar, isn't it? A situation that is controlled, where a famous person sits down and lots of other people will make fun of that one individual.
They call it a roast.
Yes, in a very harsh and quite often offensive way. So they don't hold back. They make the worst jokes.
It's done for humour, but it's also, in a way, it's to make sure somebody doesn't get too egotistical. Because we all know people who have big egos. Sometimes they need to be brought down a bit, and that's why they have that culture in the United States of roasting people, particularly celebrities, where they could just have to sit there and they have to take all the jokes, all the criticisms, all the fun, and in a way it just makes sure that they don't get too big-headed.
Because I like watching roasts, and one of the funniest was William Shatner being roasted by all these other people, and some of the things they said were really, really quite awful, and they would, almost criminal. But because of that particular environment and the setting of that event, then it wasn't. But yes, it can it can get a little bit out of hand.
As we've said, sometimes we've got to be careful, because some people have said they really don't like people taking the mickey, but sometimes it is a cultural thing that in certain cultures it is done more. And I know when I grew up, everyone was always we were always taking the mickey out of each other.
Well,
it was
kids,
just a
kids
thing
do.
we did.
Kids are the worst. Kids do it literally as their second nature. They're very good. To make a fool of someone, or to take the Michael. And this is another phrase we often use in British English. If you take the Michael, it means you are taking the mickey. And in a moment, I'm going to tell you why we use this phrase. And it's quite interesting. You might be surprised, Mr. Duncan. Mr. Duncan? No, that's me.
Talking to yourself.
Hello, Mr. Duncan. Hi there. Hey, Mr. Steve, stop taking the piss. To take the mickey, or to take the Michael. So we might also say to take the mickey is to mock someone, as we said earlier, which was very well pointed out. To mock someone is to make fun of them. You are taking the mickey out of that person. Taunt. Here's another one. So maybe you are picking on one person and you constantly make fun of that person. You taunt that person. It's a great word, by the way. Taunt.
But when people do take the mickey out of you, it depends what mood you're in. Sometimes you don't mind. Other times you can get quite upset, which is why it's always dangerous to do that. I mean, my mother used to love it. She used to laugh out loud if we took the mickey out of her. And we would do. She used to, but she'd give as good as she gets. So it's, if you take the mickey out of somebody and then they do it back to you, you can all have a laugh.
Yes.
But again, and I'll say this again, it's got to be in the right environment with people that it's safe, and that people actually, they love you really. They're not doing it to try and upset you. They're just doing it just as a light-hearted sort of joke. So it can work.
Yes.
But if you're not used to doing it, then I wouldn't try it out, because you might not. You've got to say it with the right sort of look in the eye and the right inflection in your voice so that people know that you are joking.
Don't do it at a funeral.
No.
So if the widow is standing there looking really unhappy, I know it's very tempting to be sarcastic and say something and make fun of that moment, but sometimes it's best just to leave it.
Yes.
And of course, some people are more able to take it. They have a very thick skin.
Yes, my mother was. She used to laugh because she used to really laugh out loud if we. And so, of course, some people it's very easy to take the mickey out of them, and other people, you wouldn't get away with it.
I can think of one person.
Tit for tat, yes, Giovanni. Tit for tat, yes. Give as good as you get. Tit for tat. They do something, you do something to them, they do something back. But I have seen, and somebody has commented on here, if you don't know the person or you do it in the wrong way, it can quickly start leading to a fight.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful.
Yes. Sarcasm, taking the mickey, making fun of someone can lead to much, much more serious things might happen. Okay, are you ready, Steve, to find out why we say taking the mickey?
Yes.
Here it comes. Here is the answer. And you might be surprised by the answer. The origin comes from rhyming slang. Cockney rhyming slang.
London Cockney.
Oh, Mickey Bliss. Mickey Bliss, apparently a fictional character. No one actually knows who he is. But in Cockney rhyming slang, Mickey Bliss is, of course, rhyming with taking the piss. Wow. So instead of saying the vulgar, swearing, instead of using that awful word, instead you say Mickey. Mickey Bliss. So it's rhyming slang. And of course, over the years, people have shortened it to Mickey, taking the Mickey. So that's it. So it's quite. It has nothing to do with Mickey Mouse, nothing at all. Oh,
interesting.
I was hoping for at least a small gasp.
Well, Mr. Duncan, I didn't know that.
No,
how
you do.
wonderful! Thank you so much for telling us.
No, you do. Now you know. By the way, give me a like, please, because I'm so desperate. I need your like.
I mean, we're assuming you. I mean, even if you don't like this, just like it.
Even if you hate this.
Even if you hate this is the worst thing you've ever seen.
Even if you.
Please just like it anyway, because other people might like it, and if you don't like it, other people don't get it to see it, because that's how it works on YouTube. Even
if you want to come up to me and punch me in the face, if you met me in real life, please like this.
The simple rule is the videos with the most likes get seen the most.
Yes.
That's how it works in YouTube world.
It's unfair, but it is the world we are living in.
So if you don't like it, nobody else gets to see it. And that's not what we want, because we want plenty of people to come on and watch Mr. Duncan. Not me. I'm not bothered about me.
Okay, here we go, Steve. Here's the final one. Ways of describing taking the mickey. You show disdain, you disparage, you mock, ridicule, scoff, scorn, taunt. You have banter. Now that is an interesting word, because the word banter refers to friendly conversation which might involve insults being exchanged. So maybe in a certain situation, a familiar group of people, friends, work colleagues, even family members, sometimes might get together and they might insult each other, but they will also still be friends. It's a little bit like you and me, Mr. Steve. I think quite often we take the mickey out of each other, not just here on the live stream, but in real life. Away from here.
Yes, we do.
We often make fun of each other.
Yes. And but not in a nasty way.
No.
And that's the trick of taking the mickey. It's not always to deliberately upset somebody. Sometimes it's just a joke, and it's just designed to have a bit of a laugh, because then if you do that, you're expecting something back, because you want to be able to laugh at yourself. It's when it's done to deliberately upset somebody is when it's, you would say it's unacceptable. It doesn't have to be. Tease somebody. There we go, Nitram.
Yes.
Thank you.
Tease.
You're teasing somebody. It's just banter. And I think sometimes it's easy for people to, particularly if you're doing it in text form, it's very easy because, as I said, the skill involved in taking the mickey in a jokey way that you're not trying to upset somebody, there is a skill to that, and there is an inflection, a tone in your voice, a look as you're saying it that lets that person know that you're not trying to upset them. And that's what's lost in a text. Sometimes people put comments in the live stream and they're probably joking, but sometimes somebody reads that and doesn't see that person is joking, because they could be joking, they might not be joking, but you can't tell because they're not smiling as they say it. You can't see that meaning in a text.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we've seen that, particularly on the live stream, when people have said things and other people have taken it the wrong way, taken it too seriously,
Anyway.
and they've become upset, and we've seen these little arguments taking place.
Anyway. Steve?
And the thing is, we don't know if that person is being deliberately trying to upset somebody or not.
Yes. Thank you once again for giving us a very, very short reply to that, Steve. By the way, I'm just taking the mickey there. It's time to go, by the way. It's time to go. It's time. That's it. 2 hours we've been here. So it is time to say goodbye. And we will see you next Sunday from 2 p.m. UK time. So next Sunday is when you can catch us together. But of course, I will be with you on Wednesday as well from 2 p.m. UK time. On Wednesday, you can find me right here on YouTube on Wednesday from 2 p.m. UK time. Thank you, Mr. Steve, for your company.
Thank you for yours, and thank you, wonderful viewers across the globe, for not taking the mickey out of us today.
Yes, although
in the live stream.
I think they do, but just away from YouTube.
Just away from YouTube, yeah. If we can't hear it, it doesn't hurt us.
I would love to know.
Not that we would take it seriously.
Steve, I would love to know what people really think of us.
Well, no, we don't want to know that at all.
I would love. I'd love to listen.
We don't want to know. We don't want to know.
I would love to listen to what people say while we're on, and they're saying, "Oh, it's not that idiot again. Oh, I can't stand that man. I can't stand him."
But that's not taking the mickey. That's just being offensive. That's just saying your opinion. Okay, bye everyone from me, and hopefully see you next Sunday. I will be here next Sunday. I don't think I'm doing anything next weekend.
I hope not.
But now I'm hungry and thirsty.
Okay, we are about to have a cup of tea and a slice of bread, and then we will settle down for our Sunday evening. See you on Wednesday. It will be me on Wednesday. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, this will be available later with lovely captions available as well later on. And I will see you on Wednesday. On Wednesday from 2 p.m. UK time is when I'm back with you. So on behalf of Mr. Steve and myself, thank you for watching. And of course, until the next time we meet, you know what's coming next. Are you ready, Steve?
Oh, you do this every week. Oh, every week, Mr. Duncan, you do this, don't you? We know what you're doing.
Okay,
I'm
stop.
taking the mickey out of Mr. Duncan.
Stop taking the mickey.
For saying the same thing at the end of every live stream. We love it, really, but we're just having a little bit of a joke.
Until the next time we meet, you know what's coming next. Yes, you do. Ta-ta for now. See you on Wednesday.